everyone, before proceeding with this video, I would just like to highlight that down in the description you will find some resources and some links to donate to some charities and some causes that have to do with Black Lives Matter and support Black Indigenous people of color. I would highly suggest that you donate and give to these causes. And also, before I proceed with this video, support Black and Indigenous people of color, the writing industry, and everywhere else. What up, book lovers? It is GSwiz here, and I'm here today to talk about some fantasy / sci-fi books from some Black people that are on my TBR. If you didn't know, this is a 7 on Sunday video, and I am the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description if you want to participate in any of our future prompts. And no, this topic was not necessarily meant to be this specific. This week's topic was a placeholder for anybody who was wanting to make a video dedicated to celebrating Black History Month, which is the month of February. And I noticed a lot of people make these videos at the very beginning of the month, and they do tend to drop off towards the later end of the month, and so that's why I decided to put it here so that we can keep the conversation going about books from some amazing Black and Indigenous people of color. And particularly, I decided to choose fantasy and sci-fi books because those are the genres that I tend to read the most. I want to be able to celebrate authors of every culture when it comes to those genres in particular. There are so many books that I could read within the genre that are outside of the regular popular authors sphere and them all being Caucasian, you know? Also very much also interested in talking about some other fantasy sci-fi books from different ethnicities and different cultures, but not put them all in one video. I understand that a lot of people like to do some diverse TBR videos, but I don't want to group them together. I actually want to make an effort to read more from different cultures and see what I can come up with. There's so much fantasy that I feel like that I'm either missing out on or I crave, and I think to myself, do we have that or do we not? And then it ends up being there, you know? So I just want to think of these lists for myself so that I can read fantasy and sci-fi that are inspired from different cultures but are written from those people of those cultures. I might do an East Asian or a South Asian inspired list or a Middle Eastern inspired list. I am very much looking forward to looking for those recommendations, not necessarily just to read more diversely, but because there's so much fantasy that I could read, and I love fantasy. I love all these kinds of recommendations, but like when you're reading more diversely, you have so much more to choose from. You have so many more voices to hear out and to listen to, and so that's kind of a goal for this year. This video is no exception to that. I am very much looking forward to the new releases that are coming out this year, some sequels that I'm really excited to talk about of some books, but also some new ones that I've just kind of heard going around on the social medias. Just want to talk about those and let you guys know what I'm interested in. So without further ado, let's get started with my TBR. Alright, so as I opened my phone, I was on the Goodreads page of Bloodlike Magic by Lizelle Sambury. I love the concept of this. I think I'm just starting to get into a lot of magical books, and so I thought to myself, I dig that. This one is an urban fantasy about a teen witch, and here's the big catch of the book. She has to sacrifice her first love to save her family's magic. I'm filming this on Valentine's Day. I'm feeling the romantic feelings right now, but like, that is horrifying, and I don't know exactly where the book is going to go or where the series is gonna go because that stresses me out. What if she falls for this person? I was intrigued by this because everybody is talking about it on Twitter, and then when I saw the premise, I'm like, should I or should I not? I am all about love. Like, I'm a big champion of love, but magic. That's how I feel about this book, and I find that the concept of it is very intriguing. And as soon as I read that, even though I was stressed, all I knew is that I had to find out what is going to happen in this book. I like stressing myself out, as you can tell. Another book that I'm pretty sure just came out that everybody has been raving about on the social medias is called Wings of Ebony by J.L. And the Goodreads synopsis says that it's for fans of Tomi Adeyemi and the Hunger Games. You know that it's going to be a very intense book, so I'm ready for it. Once again, it's an urban fantasy that has to do with magic. You guys see where I'm going with this? You guys probably really know my book tastes already. Oh my goodness, it's already a New York Times bestseller. I see you guys. I see you guys. Side note, I have not been purchasing books, I'd say, for the last month. The reason why I haven't is because the moving costs to move out from my previous place to here have been a lot, so I've had to be really good. That's why I haven't actually bought any new releases. Unless, of course, there's like a pre-order that I pre-ordered before I moved out. That is the reason why I have not purchased Wings of Ebony yet because I was really intrigued by it, and now that it's available to purchase, I just really need to go out and get it. As much as I have a lot of books on my shelves and I have like a lot to read, I've been thinking to myself, I really need some new releases. I've literally been envying everybody who has read Wings of Ebony. And you know what? That's gonna change now. I just got paid this month. I get paid monthly. That's the reason why I haven't spent money in a month. Let's buy Wings of Ebony. I am very much looking forward to reading it, considering that it's pretty much compared to Hunger Games, which is one of my favorite series ever, and Tomi Adeyemi's works, and I really love Children of Blood and Bones, so it's a match made in heaven. It's perfect. The next book that I'm going to mention was not going to be the sequel of the next book because here's the thing. I listened to this book on audiobook this week, but I was thinking beforehand, by the time that I film this video, it's probably going to still be on my TBR, but it wasn't because I was just tempted to listen to the audiobook, and I listened to the audiobook and I loved it. So I'm going to be talking about its sequel that isn't even out yet. I'm talking about a book that's probably going to take at least a year for it to be out. That's the sequel to The Gilded Ones. I read The Gilded Ones this week and I loved it. And yes, I absolutely regret not getting the print copy last month, even though I had so many moving costs. Probably one of my favorite books that I've read this year. It is very good, very intense, has that similar kind of style to a lot of the books that I kind of like. It's fast-paced, it's fun, but there's so much dimension to the world. I love Decca. I love the characters. I have a feeling that the sequel is going to be called Blood Sisters, or The Blood Sisters. I don't know, it might not be, but it kind of does work well, considering that the Blood Sisters are pretty much mentioned a lot in the book, and they play a very big part. I hope so, but if not, that's okay. I would just take a sequel now. Someone has an arc of the sequel. Like, I need it now. I cannot believe that I have to wait an entire year after that ending. That freaking ending. The Gilded Ones, I highly recommend it. It is 100% worth the hype. If you have not picked it up or not even considered putting it on your TBR, I am going to tell you right now, you need to consider to put it on your TBR because it is a really good fantasy. I really believe that it's going places. Pretty much the rest of this list is just going to be sequels. So yeah, let's talk about the Legendborn sequel. I feel like Legendborn was that hidden gem of like an advanced reader copy that everybody was getting, and people were just hyping it up and saying, oh, this book is really good. You guys really need to jump on it. And I'm really happy everybody who read it in advance loved it because it ended up being so successful that they weren't even going to publish it in my country. They weren't even considering publishing it in the UK until like almost like a month or two before the book release was going to happen in the US. That was just ridiculous. I was thinking this book needed to be released internationally because it's really good. For some reason, I think to myself, did the publisher or did the people behind it see its potential to go worldwide? Because clearly it's a really good release, and the fact that it's on the New York Times bestseller list and it's like top of like the bookstore recommendations lists that I see, it's saying something. It's already been places. Probably one of the best King Arthur kind of inspired books that I would recommend, even though I'm not super into Arthurian legends. What I do know is that I read a lot of King Arthur books last year. Legendborn just so happened to be one of the best. I am just very much looking forward to that sequel because there are so many questions that I have, but also that was a very epic ending. Highly recommend you read Legendborn if you haven't given into the hype yet, because it is definitely worth the hype. Another sequel that I am waiting for is of a book that I read last year, ended up being on my top 20 books of 2020, and it is the sequel to A Song of Race and Ruin. That, my friends, is a psalm of storms and silence. I don't want to accept that this is going to be the finale. I know it has been said before that it's a duology, but I do not want to accept that it's the finale. I really wish that the first book was a first book of a trilogy because I just don't want the story to wrap up. I love these characters too much, but also I see their potential to go further and for more stories to be told about them. Malik and Karina, I really need more of them, especially with like what happened last book. I don't want the sequel to be rushed. Why am I thinking these thoughts? I shouldn't have any doubts because Roseanne A. Brown really nailed it with the first book. I'm thinking to myself like, oh, I have so many doubts for like the sequel and the finale. No. I really need to have faith in Roseanne A. Brown because she wrote an amazing first book in the series, and as much as I want the sequel to be great, I do think that it's gonna get up from here. I just really want the book now. Like, I understand that May is not too far away, but May feels like forever. The second last book I've got to mention is the sequel or the companion sequel to A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow, and that, my friends, is A Chorus Rises by Bethany C. Morrow. I am so excited for this book book because I wanted to get to know about the character that is in this book even more in the previous book, and the fact that they are getting their own sequel, I'm really happy about it. I do love this world. It kind of does feel more contemporary-esque. Pretty much in this world, there are sirens. Our protagonists of both books, yeah, they fall under that category. And in A Chorus Rises, the protagonist is a teenage influencer. She's a YouTuber, and that's fascinating because we get to learn more about her in the first book, but this book would follow the ramifications of the first book, which is very fascinating. I just really looking forward to see where this is gonna go. Final book that I've got to mention on this list today is in the Great Cities series by N.K. Jemisin. I honestly don't even know what the next title is because I looked it up on GOODREADS. The sequel isn't even listed. I really hope that this series does have a sequel. Pretty much the sequel to The City We Became. And also another book, actually really short story that I want to read by N.K. Jemisin is Emergency Skin, which is part of the Forward short stories that Amazon or Audible pretty much directed and asked a bunch of fantasy/sci-fi authors to contribute to. I own Emergency Skin, so I want to listen to it on my device when I get the chance to. Pretty much I have two things from N.K. Jemisin that I really want to get to, but I also want to reread The City We Became because it's very content heavy, but also I don't really know the city of New York very well, so I found myself pretty lost when I first read it, but I was still very much intrigued. You know when there's one of those books where you still really enjoy, but there's still so much that you didn't pick up? That was The City We Became. I'm really excited to continue on with this Great City series and kind of reread and re-experience The City We Became because I just remember really enjoying it and still really being intrigued in it, but there's so much that I still didn't pick up, and so hopefully I will pick that up in my next read of the book. There's a high degree of intelligence in her storytelling, and I appreciate that. I love that. And only those that I mentioned, there are still some other fantasy series or sci-fi series that N.K. Jemisin has written, so I really need to get to those too. There's so much that I'm putting on my TBR, but hey, it's worth it for the fantasy sci-fi stuff, you know? So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. Let me know if you guys do want more fantasy sci-fi, either recommendation videos once I, you know, obviously read them, or TBR videos because these genres are my fave and there's so much I want to read. If you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Joined the amazing community of book lovers. And also I have social medias. I'm at gswizzelbooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also at GOODREADS. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it into double. Started out with half and I flipped it into double.